You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Apparently being pregnant makes you horny. We wouldn't know. But Amber and Scott discuss Babes anyway in today's episode to figure out if they would be a good friend or a crappy friend. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
You find yourself in the unique position.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
What would you do?
How do you want to handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
Bitch.
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 Okay.
If you saw the movie, you get it.
Babes. Babes is our episode for today. Babe follows inseparable childhood best friends, Eden and Dawn, having grown up together in New York City, now firmly in different phases of adulthood. When carefree and single Eden decides to have a baby on her own after a one-night stand, their friendship faces its greatest challenge. Babe delves into the complexities of female friendship with a blend of laughter, tears, and labor pains.
Bitch. Yeah, no, this was actually interesting. I actually was a big Broad City fan.
The main character, Alana Glazer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she played the main character and she wrote the film as well.
Yeah. So him and Josh Rabinowitz, I think. Either way, there were quite a few what would you do's.
So many, yeah, a lot.
So-
Very relatable. Well, no, I guess not relatable, but a
Nor-
lot of shoes to put yourself in.
Normally, I don't try to go in order. I just go in whatever happens to come up. But
Pinball order.
I almost feel like in this case, it makes more sense, at least as best as possible, to somewhat go in order. So let me start with the first. What would you do? And that is, I would pay better attention in health class.
Why is that?
To know that if you have unprotected sex while you're on your period, yes, you can actually still get pregnant. It is biologically possible.
Yes. Main character Eden, she left her best friend Dawn and her husband in the hospital after they had their second child and found herself heading home early with $500 of sushi from an expensive New York City restaurant.
Well, in fairness, no, she didn't leave early. Actually, it was late because she was trying to come back to bring the sushi
Yes.
back, and then they were asleep and it was after hours, and they told her, "Hey, you can't be here."
Yes.
Yeah, and then she happens comes upon Claude, who helps her make it from one of her 4 trains to the next.
Yes.
And
A handsome bit part actor who had just worked on a Scorsese film and was heading home wearing the tuxedo that he wore in the film.
yeah, so I mean, they had a good connection. They went back to her place, and
Played a game and got it on.
I mean, I'm assuming it was her place.
Yeah, it was because he left his bow tie there.
Oh yeah, of course. That's right. Yeah. So now listen, I'm sure it felt great, and for Claude, good for him. Good for him to get one good unprotected nut in before he dies.
Yes. Spoilers here abound as always.
Always.
And the guy that she had this great connection with that she met turns out died the very next day as he choked on an almond.
Yeah, and she didn't even realize it for like a month plus because.
She just thought he ghosted her.
Yeah, and it wasn't until after she realized she was pregnant that she
Started.
figured all that out. So yeah, I mean, pay better attention to health class so you know that you can get prego off of that.
I mean, what would you do if you died and then found out you had a baby?
Well, I would eat almonds, that's for sure.
Yeah. Almonds are death.
And then, of course, you have the what would you do with Eden and even keeping the baby. Now, I mean, if you are the pro-life segment of our audience here, obviously that's not a what would you do. We know what you would do. For the pro-choice segment of our audience, it's interesting. Despite their brief encounter, Eden did appear to be fairly connected with him. And also, it's interesting because she had to keep in the back of her mind, like, this is the only chance he has of his legacy moving on. Like, that's it. Like, he's dead. He's gone. Nothing. And his DNA is done if I abort this baby, which I could tell you would, if I were in her position, even though they didn't ever explicitly say that in the movie, that would certainly be in my mind. Like,
So what would you do if you were Eden? You'd be thinking about the bigger picture of what that baby, the legacy, and of Claude's leaving behind something on this earth before he passed.
I'd be inclined to stay with the pregnancy, because worst case scenario, you can always give the kid up for adoption. And if you let somebody know before you have the child, that child will be adopted ASAP. Like,
people do like themselves some babies.
when you can have them as a pure newborn,
yeah.
so it's not like it'd be necessarily a problem.
Right.
To have the kid adopted out. So, and she did appear to have the connection, though. I'm not sure that was ever, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they talked about whether or not it was a option, but it did kind of seem like she never really was considering that as an option.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you do meet those people in life where you just have that immediate rapport with, and, you know, it was very evident that they were both into each other, which is really too bad he died, because I don't think he would have ghosted her. I think he was into her too. So.
Yeah, he was very clearly into her.
And then you have the best friend, Dawn, who, when Eden said she was going to keep the baby, was like, oh, I didn't expect that. I was saying I was going to support you, but I assumed you would have not kept the baby. So
Well, Eden wasn't the most grown up of characters.
Yes.
So I think she just kind of assumed that she was going to take the less grown up choice, which probably made the most sense. I mean,
yeah.
like,
She was single. She taught yoga
single
in her apartment.
parent.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think anyone, again, in the pro-choice crowd at least, could have faulted her for having an abortion in that case. And this really is a true, I don't think there's necessarily a right or a wrong answer. I think,
What would you do, baby edition?
yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. It's the connection you feel. And maybe she was like, ooh, biological clock, tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. You know what? Might not get another chance. Might as well roll the dice with this one.
Yeah. She didn't specifically mention that at all. It just...
But she had to be. I mean, they mentioned going to the same movie on or not same movie, but they going to the movies every day
Dawn and Eden.
for 27 years. And there was references that they were childhood friends, but
The two.
So, I mean, I'm guessing that they were at least mid-30s, maybe getting into late 30s. So, I mean, that's certainly a biological clock.
Yeah, Dawn had already had a child that was, I believe, 3, and then at the beginning of the film, she had a second child. So she was already doing the family thing, which became an issue throughout the film of like, hey, I'm married, I have 2 kids, I have a job, I'm beaten down, I'm tired, I'm barely hanging it together. And then you have Eden, who is just kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna do this baby thing, and was leaning a little too heavily on Dawn, who was already kind of cracking.
Yeah. And speaking of what would you do's, listen, I get what Eden was trying to do in making a deal with a 4-year-old.
Okay, so let's explain that a little
Yeah, I
more.
do. So basically the 4-year-old had regressed a lot under their pressure of a new baby. So like
Yeah, I'm a baby too. Look
they
at
said,
me.
yeah.
Aren't I cute? Wow,
Yeah.
I'm wearing diapers and
And,
sucking on
and so
a
Eden was like,
pacifier.
hey, listen, I want to treat you like less of a baby. We've got this movie over here it's an R-rated movie. I mean, like, you can't be a baby and watch this movie. So I'll let you watch it, but, you know,
You got to stop with the baby.
you got to stop with the whole baby thing. And he agreed. And I like what she was doing with that. I just think that The Omen was the wrong movie to choose
It was
for
indeed.
that agreement. Like, find a different R-rated movie, one where, you know, a young child doesn't start acting like the devil.
Yeah. When you start, unfortunately, acting out and doing what Damien did in The Omen and writing 666 and upside down.
Scaring the shit out of them.
Crosses on your wall, scaring the heck out of your babysitter, so she quits. That obviously threw Dawn over the edge too, and created some conflict between Dawn and Eden. So that's
Some
actually,
conflict.
but that's actually interesting too. What if someone who is supposed to support you does something and creates a bunch of chaos and creates a bunch of friction? Because Dawn was pretty PO'd about that.
Oh yeah, and I think completely rightfully so. I mean, like, you and there is a problem. Like, when I mean, and Dawn proved that she could act every bit as adolescent as Eden,
Bitch.
but know when to turn it on and know when to turn it off. And that seemed to be the line between those two characters, is that Dawn knew how to turn it on and off. Eden not so much.
That's actually a really good point because you're absolutely right. We only saw that side of Dawn when she was with Eden, but Eden was like that at her doctor's appointments, her interactions with other people. So yeah, that's a really astute point. I mean, if I had been trying to find a nanny and my BFF had done something that ultimately made my nanny quit when I was already hanging on by a thread in regards to my sanity and my sleep, yeah, I would get mad too.
I can just say I've lost friendships over way less than that.
And Eden didn't really, I think, apologize appropriately for that. Just which I thought was kind of weird because that deserves some profuse apologizing.
Yeah, I think maybe she just didn't understand the gravity of it, which I think also played into that how immature that character was.
Right.
Like
right.
To not even realize how big a thing that was.
Right. And to come in and kind of just be talking about your own stuff when they're actually trying to deal with family things because Dawn has a family. So
I mean, she didn't. In fairness, Eden essentially ambushed herself by coming over in just really bad timing, like not
unannounced.
realizing.
Yeah, unannounced, walking in with her own key and disrupting a family conversation and start proceeding to talk about her own stuff. So, yeah, definitely a self-centered character. But, you know, it lends itself to another what would you do in the fact when you have a best friend that you've known since childhood and that level of comfort is so large that you start not to check yourself because you're just so freaking comfortable.
Yeah.
And what do you do to keep that person who is not really understanding the boundaries or the fact that, hey, I'm not single and carefree anymore. I can play with you occasionally, but the rest of my life I'm earning pay. I'm making appointments with clients because she was a dentist. I have to tend to my husband. I have 2 kids. I got stuff.
Yeah, and I think that was a little on Dawn to not draw a firmer line in the sand before she was pushed over the edge of like, hey, listen, we got to draw this line here as to what's okay and what's not, because you're kind of going into area that's not okay, which maybe 5 years ago that might have been fine, but we've moved on. And this is, so we need our relationship to be commensurate with where we are in life. So
how would you handle that then?
I've always had a policy that no matter who you are in my life, literally without exception, there is a line that if you cross it and stay crossed on it, I'm done with you. I have no room in my life for that. Now, the longer you've been in my life or the closer you are to me, the more leeway you're going to have before I draw that line.
Yeah, I mean, definitely when you look at friendships and especially complicated ones that evolve over time, sometimes people evolve at different levels. And I think that was really the case with these characters is you might have been 16 at the same time, but boy, 35 can look a lot different for folks.
Oh, yes. And that's the thing. Friendships are hard to keep up. I've had some long-term friendships that ended because we didn't stay in the same place. We might have been in the same place, but we didn't stay there. And
well, it's interesting because some people say as a negative, like, you've changed. And to me, I would be like, thank gosh. You know, I don't want to be the same person I was when I was 18 because that means I wasn't receptive to new ideas. I didn't learn new things. I didn't grow. I didn't evolve. I don't want to be the same person at 18 that I am at 80.
Absolutely.
I hope I'm a different person. I hope I've changed.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, I mean, I was fine when Dawn was like, nah, listen. And the whole, like, are we family? And she's like, now.
Okay, so Eden and Dawn had a thing where Eden thought about Dawn as family, and Dawn was like, I got my own family, girl.
Yeah. We talk about family and families who you choose. And I think when it comes to family version 1, i.e. your parents, your siblings, and friends and stuff like that, that's completely true. Family version 2, though, when you've actually picked a partner and you're building out the family, that is the choice you've made.
Yeah.
And so that
you start making family members.
Yeah, that really does redefine family. And so somebody who might have been quote unquote family under version 1, like not blood, but like you're my family under version 1, might not be family under version 2. I mean, still a good friend, but no. So I mean, Eden's
had somewhat of a dysfunctional, estranged relationship with her dad. So, you know, Dawn, her childhood friend, really was her family. When she says your family, it's like, because she didn't really have anybody else.
Yeah.
So
but
there was a lot of pressure there. And as Dawn grew up and created her own family, she's like, yeah, we're at different places. I have a family. And that created another conflict with them, of course.
And once you've gotten to version 2, though, you have to be protective. And I think that's what it was Dawn got very protective of her own family structure and saw the accidental damage that Eden could and would do to that structure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and at a certain point, she had to draw a line, and I've seen that. I've seen those lines drawn in real life, where both me as the person who was affected and the one who was doing the affecting, where somebody else kind of had to step in and be like, "Hey, listen." Either me saying you've got to take a step back, or I had an occasion where someone told me you got to take a step back. This is hurting our family, and I respected it 1,000,000% when they said it because I got it. And anytime I've ever done it to somebody else, they've respected it 100%. Because you don't realize it sometimes. You don't realize that you've crossed that line until you're over it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the takeaway here is this was a comedy, but I think the underscoring thing is something that affects all of us is relationships can be complicated and relationships evolve. And sometimes you just need to have honest conversations with people. Because sometimes someone honestly doesn't have the slightest clue that they're doing something that you're over there just clenching your teeth about. Like, they're oblivious. So, have kind but firm conversations with the people in your life who matter, and understand that relationships can sometimes be messy and a little complicated.
Yeah, I will say this. There was one last "what would you do" that I have to cover, and that is near the end when Dawn had gotten that commercial thing, the Invisalign thing, and she was jetting off to San Francisco, like she's on the plane going out there for this shoot that's going to be like huge for her. And she finds out Eden's actually in labor, and she gets off the plane.
Right. Yeah, I heard you talk.
You know what?
Talking under
Listen,
your breath about that.
In movie world, that makes for a good movie. In real life,
there's consequences.
Hell no. You know what, girl? I want to be there for you. I do. And I will come see you as soon as I am back from San Francisco. But you got yourself a doula. You got yourself a plan. I would be a nicety, but not a necessity.
Well, and life gave Dawn a second chance. I mean, that opportunity went to another dentist.
Yes.
And she really wanted it, and she was devastated over it. And then something happened, and that opportunity presented itself again. And sometimes life doesn't give you a second chance.
Which I will say, vis-a-vis our previous point, it was, you had Eden playing accidental homewrecker in a way, but she kind of did it again there. I mean, again, completely Dawn's 100% on Dawn.
Yeah, and she didn't ask Dawn to do that or anything.
But yeah, it's like, hey, you lost this huge thing because of her. And I could see where that might have been a big issue between Dawn and Marty, the husband. Like, hey, listen, I get it, but what the...
But she also acknowledged in a different scene that opportunity wasn't going to, give them any significant money for anything that they needed. But, it really comes down to you got to own your decisions, good or bad. If you make the decision, as in Dawn, to get off the plane, that's your decision. You can't be bitter or, aggravated or anything down the line because Eden didn't ask for it.
No, I disagree. You can be bitter, but you can't be bitter at Eden. You'd be bitter at yourself for making the decision. But I'll tell you this, bitterness is bitterness, regardless of where it comes from. That stuff can still stew. So even if she couldn't be bitter at Eden, there still could be. I mean, again, I'm pulling this out of the movie into real life.
Yeah.
There's definitely that whole thing in the back of the mind. Like, if she had just gone into labor, like, 2 hours later, I would have already been in the...
Or 10 minutes later.
Yeah, 10 minutes. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, again, you got to make a good movie.
Yeah.
But, so, final thoughts.
Bitch!
Bitch!
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.